In Rotherham, a broken-down vehicle disrupts the northbound M1 exit slip at junction 33. Serious collision in Nottinghamshire shuts A1 northbound. Expect delays until noon. Overturned vehicle in Worcestershire closes a lane on the northbound entry slip at junction 1 of the M42. Significant congestion on the M25 anti-clockwise between junctions 30 and 27 in Greater London causes over 1.5-hour delays. And on the trains, there is disruption on Chiltern Railways between London Marylebone and Amersham. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
King Charles is stepping back from one of the most traditional royal duties, that's riding on horseback for Trooping of the Colour, which is coming up, I think, in a week's time, isn't it? At 76 and undergoing cancer treatment, he'll now take the salute from a carriage, just as Queen Elizabeth did in her later years. But as the King trades saddle for state coach, it raises a bigger question. Does the pomp and pageantry of royal events like Trooping the Colour still resonate with modern Britain? Or are we holding on to rituals that really reflect the country, and do we really care?
I think the spectacle is important because it's symbolic, OK, and people really respond to that notion of heritage and grandeur. But I think it's about more than that. It's about constitutional monarchy. And there are three key points here. Constitutional monarchy produces higher standards of living than republics. It protects property rights and individual property because in the long term, it's not as vulnerable to ideology. And it holds a check on politicians as well. I'd much rather have King Charles than President Blair. And it's about continuity.
Legoland is just a short hop, skip and jump away from Windsor Castle. It gets many more visitors than any royal castle or other event. So we don't need the royals to have spectacle. We can have spectacle without it. And
okay,
I think,
you're not suggesting chopping their heads off, are you?
Oh, no, of course not. Of course not. No, I'd be very kind and gentle. But the one point that was made was that the royals are part of British culture and tradition. But in fact, the royals are German descent, who were basically, by their own internal agreement, took over the British throne.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Very good morning to you. It's 9:30 on Wednesday, July the 16th, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Ben Leo and Bev Turner.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us. So, Afghan cover-up. At a cost of £850 million to you, Britain's biggest data leak, sparked by one email, reveals how many asylum seekers were sneaked into the UK, and we knew nothing about it for 2 years. Defence Secretary John Healey spoke to GB News just a few moments ago.
I've ended this special secret scheme, I've disclosed this data breach, and importantly allowed the judge to respond to my application to have the super injunction lifted. So the British people deserve answers, and from today they can start to get them.
Well, that was the government's response. Here's what Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride said.
When this data was leaked, which was a terrible error on the part of the Ministry of Defence and should never, ever happen again. It's extraordinary it happened in the first place. But it did place at risk tens of thousands of Afghans who had, in many cases, bravely assisted us.
Yes, Afghans put in danger, a huge cost to the British taxpayer, an unprecedented super injunction, and yet we don't know if anybody has lost their job over this.
When I listen to people like Nigel Farage complaining about the high price of energy, he blames it on renewables and isn't honest with people. He isn't honest that actually it's the high price of gas that's caused the cost of living problem. And he comes on programmes like yours, he tells you the problem, he doesn't have a solution. His solution would actually play into the hands of his friend Vladimir Putin.
That's the Liberal Democrat leader, Sir Ed Davey, accusing Nigel Farage of peddling myths about net zero and championing renewable energy, saying that it is the future.
Britain is open for business, open for trade and open for investment.
An optimistic Chancellor Rachel Reeves at the annual Mansion House speech in the City of London last night, but breaking this morning, bad news, inflation rose to a 16-month high of 3.6% in June.
And it's a kitchen nightmare. BBC star John Turode has been sacked from MasterChef after a complaint that he used racist language 8 years ago has been upheld. All of this he denies.
Mr. Daniel Gray and Mr. Adam Carruthers, I pass the same sentence in respect of you. The sentence is, on count 1, 4 years and 3 months imprisonment. On count 2, 6 months imprisonment, but to be served concurrently with the sentence on count 1.
Sycamore vandals jailed. Good riddance to 2 men who have been jailed for 4 years for felling the iconic Sycamore Gap tree. The judge said they committed crime for sheer bravado. 4 years, though. Is that an appropriate sentence?
British and proud. We talked about this yesterday, didn't we? The schoolgirl who made headlines after teachers forced her out of the classroom for wearing a Union Jack dress spoke to GB News.
Me not being allowed to read my speech, it's really upset me and it's embarrassed me as well because I prepared it and I really wanted to share it to my school.
You can't keep your baby because we want your milk.
A vegan charity advert which features a baby being taken from its mother is banned for being irresponsible, distressing and likely to cause widespread offence. Is it, though, just censorship?
Have you seen that commercial?
I haven't.
Right, so Andrew and I handled this story a few months ago. I like to think we played a part in it being banned. We will remind you what happened when we talked about it because we spoke to Kelly, one of our farmer friends who has cows. And she's a dairy farmer, that's why she has cows. But when they were on the advert there were the guys saying, I'm going to take you from your mother. It's about the fact that that's what we do to cows.
To calves, yeah.
To calves, thank you. Yeah, I will just get my brain around animal language by the end of the day.
So you support the ban?
Oh, yeah, completely, which I know is strange because you know that I'm not a fan of censorship. But we'll show you a bit more of the commercial. We'll explain a bit more as to why it was so inappropriate. It was complete propaganda to terrify children not to eat meat.
I need to watch it in full. We'll have the full clip very shortly so I can make an informed decision. You've made your mind up. Elsewhere, outrage at the betrayal, whether the figure is the estimated $7 billion at the time or the figure today that the MOD are saying is accurate of £850 million on the Afghan arrivals, the fact of the matter remains they tried to keep it under wraps in total secrecy without informing you, the electorate. I think it's a total betrayal, and it makes you wonder, what else are they lying about? What else are they trying to hide? I'd argue there's questions now about the small boats crisis. We'll get stuck into that and much more after your 60-second news update with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you. The top story this morning, well, inflation has hit a near 18-month high, rising to 3.6% in June as food prices soared for the third month in a row. Transport costs have also spiked, with airfares marking their largest monthly jump in 7 years. Sir Ben Wallace has said he makes no apology for blocking reports of a leak naming 19,000 Afghans who backed UK forces. He says it was about saving lives, not saving face. The 2022 breach led to a secret £850 million relocation scheme. Thousands are now being moved to the UK under the Afghanistan response route. A major NHS review says physician associates should be renamed assistants and banned from diagnosing patients. The report comes after cases where families mistakenly thought their loved ones were treated by doctors. Southern Water has this morning announced a hosepipe ban affecting nearly 1 million people in Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. With river levels critically low, violators could face a £1,000 fine. And 20 people have died in a deadly crowd surge at an aid site in southern Gaza. 19 were trampled and 1 stabbed during the crush. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, backed by Israel and the US, claims the site was stormed by Hamas-linked agitators. Those are the headlines for now. I'll be back with your news at 10.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Very good morning. Welcome to Britain's Newsroom with Bev and Ben, while Andrew is on his holidays this morning.
Morning to you. Right, so in one of the biggest scandals of recent history, the government's been running a secret evacuation and resettlement scheme for thousands of Afghans.
That's after up to 100,000 lives, including those who served alongside the British military, were put at risk by the Ministry of Defence following a major data breach.
In a bid to keep the scandal hidden for years from you, the public, the previous Conservative government used an unprecedented super injunction in the courts to stop it being reported by the media.
So let's have a look at some of the numbers here. It's a little bit complicated, this story. A total of 6,900 Afghans will or have already been resettled in the UK due to the breach at a cost to the taxpayer of £850 million. Now, the original amount that we believe was budgeted was £7 billion, but that has not been reached as the scheme has now closed.
And in February 2022, the personal details of nearly 19,000 people who had applied to move to the UK after the Taliban seized power in Afghanistan after Joe Biden's botched evacuation were leaked in an email.
That's right. So the Defence Secretary, John Healey, spoke to GB News just a few moments ago.
This is a huge data breach that had never been disclosed. It led to the previous government setting up a secret resettlement scheme, bringing Afghans into this country, and covered all by a totally unprecedented super injunction.
So the story here for me, Bev, isn't the data leak as such. Yes, it's bad, but we've kind of become accustomed to that kind of thing.
Yeah.
When I heard the story of a data leak initially yesterday, I think you mentioned it as well, you thought, oh, another NHS thing or MOD thing, fine. The story for me is the fact that the government was happy to, at one point, estimating it would need to spend £7 billion. The figure now is 850 million. But they were preparing, if they were going to have 100,000 Afghanis and their family members come over to the UK, to spend £7 billion of your money, secretly airlifting 100,000 Afghan nationals into the country, without telling you, the electorate. And when the media tried to report on it, they tried covering it up. That, for me, is the story. And it begs the question now is, if the government can behave like that, spending your money unaccounted for, doing something so drastically epic that would change the very fabric of your communities, where would these people go? You weren't even being told about it. What else are they not telling you about?
Well, Catherine Forster is with us in the studio. And, Catherine, we've set out a lot of the details there, but I think there are still so many unanswered questions, aren't there? And I'm not expecting you to be able to answer them all this morning. These questions will have to be answered by various people because, of course, this was not under this Labour government. This all happened under the Conservative government.
Yes, this is mostly on the Conservative governments prior to this Labour government. So a Royal Marine back in early February 2022 accidentally shared this database which had 19,000 names on it. That then was threatened by somebody to put it on Facebook. And then when this came to the attention of ministers and the press towards the end of September 2023, there was a super injunction granted so nobody could know about it or discuss it at all. That was lifted yesterday because John Healey, the current Defence Secretary, had ordered this review. They've closed the scheme. They think the risk to people remaining in Afghanistan is now low, but so many unanswered questions. The figures have fluctuated wildly, but I think the £7 billion that we heard a lot about yesterday, that was the government's worst case scenario if they had to bring, I think they were estimating potentially 43,000 extra people here as a result. As it is, it's going to be 6,900. They say the total cost is 850 million. Still, an awful lot of money.
I don't want to interrupt you, but I'm finding this story very difficult to get my head around. The people on that list, they hadn't necessarily worked directly with the British government. They weren't all translators or intelligence operatives. Who were they?
We still don't know. We still don't know the details. But John Healey, speaking on GB News a little bit earlier, did say that not everybody on that list were people that had helped Britain. But because they were on the list, because they were therefore potentially at risk, the government felt that it was their duty to safeguard them. Now, there's all sorts of allegations flying around. Some of these people, we do know, had applied for asylum through different routes, and those applications had been declined. I'm told that this scheme widened the criteria a bit. The MOD are also saying that nobody coming under this has got sort of a criminal background. That's not what is being alleged in some of the papers today.
So they're alleging there's about 1,500 of those people already had criminal convictions, some of them for sex offences, in Afghanistan.
Well, the MOD is denying that, but John Healey has said today the British system works on freedom of the media, Parliament being able to scrutinise and challenge. And so I think the questions obviously start now, and hopefully we will get some answers, because Parliament is going to want to know the details of this. And we don't even know if anybody's lost their job. Now, the Royal Marine that leaked it accidentally probably ultimately isn't the person whose head should roll, but more senior people. And Johnny Mercer, who was previously the Veterans Minister, has written in the Telegraph today, and he's saying that this has laid bare, quote, the ineptitude of the British state.
Yeah, but that's what happens. Even at the RAF Prize Norton thing the other month with Palestine Action, nobody lost their jobs over that. We just, in this country, just sort of mutter about it and move on, and it's just another catastrophe after another.
Accountability deficit.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll say again, for me, maybe the viewers will disagree, the story here isn't the data leak. Yes, it's bad. Might have been a decent story on a slow news day. It's the fact, and by the way, it's not even the fact that we have Afghan interpreters and their families coming here, because I think Britain owes those people loyalty. They served alongside us and the US in Afghanistan, and they deserve to be kept safe. It's the secrecy, and it's the attempt to pull the wall over the eyes of the British public, regardless of the figures. Whether it's 7,000 Afghanis, whether it's 100,000, whether it's 850 million, whether it's 7 billion, it's the deceit which irks me.
And is that the super injunction to stop the British public knowing this was happening was because they didn't think the British public would buy into it and we would be outraged, although, frankly, it doesn't seem to me the British public get outraged about enough these days? Or was it the fact that the Conservative government would say we still had a duty to protect the secret, you know, we still had a duty of care to the people on that list, and therefore we couldn't have the media exposing what we were doing, because that would then double down on the risk to these people for whom the Taliban might go knocking on their door and kill them?
Well, that is the argument that the Conservative government gave to get this injunction, this super injunction. And Ben Wallace, who was Defence Secretary at the time, has issued no apology. He said that it was absolutely the right thing to do to safeguard these Afghans. John Healey, of course, some time has passed now, but he takes a different view. He thinks that the risk is now low, and the Labour government would say, yes, it's a lot of money. Yes, it's unacceptable, but they've closed the scheme now. And if they hadn't, they'd be potentially on the hook for yet more money and thousands more people coming.
And call me cynical, but why are Labour making much of this now? Why has John Healey asked this super injunction to be lifted now, so that he can say, look, we may not be fixing the issue of immigration, but just look what the Conservatives did behind your back?
Well, it's bad for the Conservatives, isn't it? Of course, It's very bad. We've got PMQs today. I'm sure Sir Keir Starmer will be delighted that there is a scandal that reflects very badly on the previous government. John Healey found out about this about 6 months before Labour came to power, because they have access talks before a new government came in. He ordered a review of this and the necessity for it by a retired civil servant called Paul Rimmer. And it's as a result of that review that they've decided that it should be lifted and it's no longer necessary. But yes, there is a huge amount of blame flying around. And I think all we can safely say is that something at the MOD has gone very, very badly wrong when an ordinary soldier has had access to this and been able to leak it inadvertently. And, you know, you would think in the private sector, heads would have rolled long ago. But it seems that they haven't. And John Healey has said this morning that there should be accountability right up the command chain. Worth saying that the man who is in overall charge of special forces above this Marine is currently the head of the Navy.
Can I just clarify? It wasn't John Healey who asked for the injunction to be lifted, was it? It was the media. It was the Daily Mail, wasn't it?
It was he carried out a review. He ordered a review by Paul Rimmer, this retired civil servant, to see whether it should be lifted, and it was ultimately concluded that it should be. But yes, you're right. The Times and other news outlets have been fighting this secretly behind the scenes since September 2023 to get this brought out into the open.
Thanks, Catherine.
Well, what it does tell us, if Labour feel very strongly about this migration and the numbers and the amount being spent on it, then actually they can do something now they're in power about the very same issue. So good to know.
Yeah, indeed. And I keep saying I'd like to know what else they're trying to keep secret from you at home. What other super injunctions are doing the rounds? Anyway, up next.
Britain is open for business, open for trade, and open for investment.
Well, Britain may well be open for business, but inflation has risen again due to soaring food and fuel prices.
But forget about that. If you're in search of some holiday sun to forget your woes, here's the forecast for some top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
There's the risk of some more heavy, thundery downpours affecting eastern parts of Europe as we go through the rest of this week. But across western areas towards the Canary Islands, Madeira, across much of Spain and Portugal, it's largely fine on Thursday. A decent amount of sunshine and feeling very warm or hot in that sunshine as well. Some showery rain likely across much of Italy, drier towards the south, but across parts of Greece, Turkey, there will be a fair few showers on offer. A drier theme for many through the end of the week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's completely unacceptable to have a biological man in a female-only changing room. And from my personal point of view, I was abused as a child, and having a man in our changing room is a particular trigger for me. And the Trust just did nothing about it, so we had to take things further.
So you complained to the Trust about this. You and your colleagues got together and they just ignored you. They didn't really care about it.
Not a bit. They didn't care at all. We wrote a letter of concern. 26 of us signed it. And the response was that we needed to be re-educated. We needed to broaden our mindset. And they backed this trans person 150%.
So, Karen, this person who identifies as Rose, on one occasion they were staring at you or your colleagues' breasts in this changing room and asking, are you getting changed yet? Another of your colleagues had a panic attack. I don't think it was you. Is that accurate?
That was me.
And what do you make of people who call you a TERF or a bigot for complaining about this kind of thing? Because that's what they say.
They do, yes, but there's been loads of positivity out there for us. There's loads of positive comments, and I'm not a bigot. I'm not a TERF. I'm just fighting for what's right. I want to feel safe when I get changed. Yeah. There's what's happened to me could have happened to other people, and I want to be a voice for them to stand up and come forward and say this is not acceptable.
Karen, you're a brave lady, you and your colleagues, and I'm glad, actually, it was Wes Streeting who intervened in the end, one of the more competent Labour ministers, who told Darlington Hospital, sort this out, pull your finger out, don't be so ridiculous, and he got involved and he sorted it out for you.
GB News, the People's Channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom, 9:52, just about. Ben Leo and Bev Turner with you this morning.
So in yet another bad headline for the Chancellor, inflation has hit a near 18-month high, rising to 3.6% in June, as food prices soar for the third month in a row.
Economist Julian Jessup joins us now to explain what's going on. Julian, thank you for your company. Inflation ticking up in the US as well. Is this just a global thing, or is there anything particularly the government is doing here that can be blamed on it?
Well, it is partly a global thing. So the biggest single contributor to the rise in inflation in June was actually higher energy prices, which is happening worldwide. And also agricultural commodity prices are up around the world as well. So it's partly global. But I'm afraid it's mainly the UK. And you can see this most clearly, I think, in the gap that's now opening up between inflation in the UK, which is 3.6%, and the latest numbers in the euro area, which are about 2%. And the key driver there is the continued pass-through of higher payroll costs. So last October's budget obviously made it more expensive for companies to employ people through the employers' national insurance contributions going up and also the big increase in the national minimum wage. And firms are responding to that not only by cutting jobs, but also by raising prices. So I'm afraid that's another example of how working people are far from being protected by last October's budget. Actually, they're suffering from it.
The thing is, Julian, when I hear 3.6% food prices have gone up, that bears no resemblance to what I'm seeing on the shelves. Have you seen the price of a jar of coffee? Instant coffee is about £9 or £10 a jar. That's not gone up by 3.6%. That's gone up by about 400%, it seems, in the last few years. What's really going on with food prices? Are the businesses price gouging as well?
No, I think the official numbers are accurate. What you've got to remember is that the food price numbers are an average for all different types of food commodities, not just coffee and chocolate, the things that have gone up the most. And if you look at the individual numbers that the ONS is reporting for those particular categories, they have shot up. So I think the figures are about as reliable as they could possibly be. Right. But there's no doubt that people are particularly aware of prices of things that they buy more frequently. So people are particularly sensitive to the higher cost of, for example, petrol or the weekly food shops. There's always going to be a perception that inflation is a lot higher than it actually is.
Julian, we've got to go, unfortunately. Thank you, though, for explaining that quite eloquently. Really appreciate it. Stick with us on Newsroom. Ed Davey, the leader of the Lib Dems, spoke to GB News this morning, and also HMRC say they don't know how much tax they need to claim from billionaires. Does anything even work in this country anymore? Back in a sec.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. This is your latest GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Now, for many, today is going to be drier than it was yesterday, but not everywhere. That's because there is a front across parts of the southwest. This is bringing more cloud here, even some outbreaks of rain, particularly across Devon and Cornwall, but some of that rain is likely to push into parts of Dorset, Somerset, maybe Wiltshire and the south of Wales as well. Elsewhere, and a few showers are quite likely across parts of southern Scotland, maybe northern, northeastern England and down the eastern side. Otherwise, though, it's looking largely dry, decent amount of sunshine, and with that sunshine, temperatures rising. It's going to be a bit warmer than yesterday, highs of around 26, 27, possibly 28 Celsius. Then, as we go through into this evening, still a few showers dotted around across some central southern parts of Scotland, but a fine end to the day across many northern parts and towards Aberdeenshire as well in the east. Also largely fine across Northern Ireland, a decent amount of sunshine here, and for many parts of Northern England, central eastern England and North Wales, just one or two showers perhaps. But still in the southwest, it is going to be quite cloudy and there's more rain to come. None of it especially heavy for the time being, but as we go overnight, more wet weather feeds its way into western areas, so across parts of Wales and across Northern Ireland, and it's here where we're likely to see some relatively intense rain, could even start to turn a bit thundery. Similar to last night, it's not going to be especially chilly. Temperatures for many holding up in double figures, some places only falling to around 17 or 18 Celsius, so pretty warm indeed. And then as we go through tomorrow, quite wet across some western parts. Like I said, it's across Northern Ireland where we're going to have the heaviest, most intense rain, potential for some high rainfall totals and some thundery downpours. Some of that wet weather pushing into parts of Scotland and down the western side of England and Wales as well. Staying drier though towards the east, and temperatures, if anything, a little bit higher than today.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed home battery storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Anticipate delays on the M80 northbound near Junction 7 due to a broken down vehicle. The M48 eastbound over the Severn Bridge is completely closed due to roadworks, with diversions in place. In Salford, a serious collision on the M62 eastbound between junctions 11 and 12 causes 10-minute delays. All lanes on the A1 northbound in Nottinghamshire are closed after a major incident, with normal conditions expected by 12:43. Worcestershire's M42 northbound at Junction 1 has one lane blocked by an overturned vehicle. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
10 a.m. on Wednesday the 16th of July, live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Ben Leo and Bev Turner.
Morning, thank you for your company. Afghan cover-up at a cost of £850 million to you, the great British public. Britain's biggest data leak, sparked by one email, reveals how many asylum seekers were snuck into the UK and we knew nothing about it for 2 years. Defence Secretary John Healey spoke to GB News Breakfast a bit earlier.
I've ended this special secret scheme. I've disclosed this data breach and importantly allowed the judge to respond to my application to have the super injunction lifted. So the British people deserve answers and from today they can start to get them.
And here is Conservatives' Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride.
When this data was leaked, which was a terrible error on the part of the Ministry of Defence and should never ever happen again, it's extraordinary it happened in the first place, but it did place at risk tens of thousands of Afghans who had, in many cases, bravely assisted us.
One of the worst data breaches in British history, but will anyone carry the can? It seems not.
When I listen to people like Nigel Farage complaining about the high price of energy, he blames it on renewables and isn't honest with people. He isn't honest that actually it's the high price of gas that's caused the cost of living problem. And he comes on programmes like yours, he tells you the problem, he doesn't have a solution. His solution would actually play into the hands of his friend Vladimir Putin.
He also spoke to GB News this morning. Lib Dem leader Sir Ed Davey, who accused Nigel Farage of peddling myths about net zero, and he champions a renewable energy future.
Britain is open for business, open for trade and open for investment.
That's an optimistic sounding, or at least she's trying to, Chancellor Rachel Reeves at the annual Mansion House speech last night. But back to reality this morning, inflation has risen to a 16-month high of 3.6% in June.
Billionaire tax mystery. His Majesty's Revenue and Customs has come under fire for having absolutely no idea how many billionaires are paying tax in the UK.
You can't keep your baby. Because we want your milk.
So that was the advert from a vegan charity. Do you remember it? It features a baby being taken from its mother. Well, it has been banned from being shown in cinemas for being irresponsible, distressing and likely to cause widespread offence. We'll remind you of the advert itself and think about whether this was the right thing to do, or is it censorship? Lots to get through this morning. GBNews.com/your say to get in touch with us. Let's get a quick news hit though with Sam.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom at just after 10 o'clock. Well, the top story, inflation has unexpectedly jumped to 3.6%. That is the highest level in 18 months, driven by rising food and travel costs. Food prices have now surged for the third month in a row. Airfares also seeing their biggest monthly hike in 7 years. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, says that working people are still struggling and insists there is more to do to bring prices down. The Bank of England is still expected to cut interest rates in August, but experts say the inflation spike could slow further cuts. Sir Ben Wallace, the former Defence Secretary, says he makes no apology for blocking reports of a major data leak exposing thousands of Afghans who helped British forces. He insists it was about protecting lives from Taliban retribution, not a cover-up. Nearly 19,000 names were leaked by a defence official, prompting a new UK relocation scheme. That secret £850 million programme launched last year is now moving thousands of Afghans to safety. It's known as the Afghanistan Response Route. The Co-op has confirmed every one of its 6.5 million members had their data stolen in a cyber attack. The supermarket's boss says she's devastated and that the hack felt personal because of the toll it's had on her staff. No financial data was taken, but names, addresses and contact details were accessed. 4 people have since been arrested over the hack, including a 17-year-old boy. The Co-op was just one of several major retailers targeted, including the M&S and Harrods. Physician associates should be renamed assistants and stopped from diagnosing patients, a major NHS review has found. It says patients must be told clearly who is treating them, and so-called PAs should wear distinct badges and uniforms to avoid confusion with doctors. The report follows cases where families believed their loved ones were being seen by qualified medics. Doctors, though, say the review doesn't go far enough. But the Union for Physician Associates warns waiting times could rise if changes are made. Southern Water has announced another hosepipe ban for now nearly 1 million people across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. It follows weeks of dry weather and critically low river levels. The ban means no watering gardens, no washing cars or filling paddling pools. And those who are caught could risk a £1,000 fine. Bosses say it's vital to protect rare habitats and wildfire, warning demand spikes could make the crisis worse. And 20 people have reportedly died during a deadly crowd surge at an aid site in southern Gaza. That is according to the US and Israel-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. 19 people were trampled and 1 stabbed at a centre in Khan Yunis, with reports it was stormed by Hamas-linked agitators. Local hospital officials have said over 10 people died after private guards closed the gates to that aid site. Those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back in half an hour's time. Now, though, it's back over to Ben and Bev.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Bev and Ben this week while Andrew is on his holiday. I'm a bit baffled by this Afghan story. We're going to be talking to somebody in a moment who will be saying how bad this situation was for the Afghani people. But when we're hearing, Ben, it being called the worst data breach in British history, I don't understand that phrase.
It's not the story for me anyway.
No, it's not for me either.
Sam on bulletins just then, on the news bulletins, Sam Francis just delivered news of another data leak. They happen day in, day out, the co-op, whatever. British Airways last year, it happens all the time. The data leak, for me, isn't the story.
I agree.
The story is the secrecy, the deceit. The government, at the time, was preparing to use £7 billion worth of your money, airlifting tens of thousands, the number was thought to be 100,000 at the time, of Afghans and their family members into the country without telling you. That's the story.
Yeah.
We get bogged down in stuff like, oh, there's a big data leak. It's not the story.
I mean, I quite like data leaks. Obviously, you wouldn't have liked it if you were in Afghanistan. But my point about these repeated stories about data leaks is it's raising awareness of how vulnerable we are to centralised digital systems, which have all of our identity and our data on them. So we need to be aware of that. And, I think they are good warnings to the modern world about we have to be really careful how much we commit to those sorts of things.
Yeah, they are. I mean, it's a shame that they are so serious, yet for me and you, I guess, that they're now 2 a penny. I mean, it's just shows to go the standard of decline.
Well, Vit says on Your Say, it bothers me because the British taxpayer are having to pay for this nonsense. I think you're right. And Hazel says, regarding the Afghan question, I'd recommend you look at Parliament yesterday and John Healey talking on this subject. He fully supported the actions of the last government. Paul has said the Afghan cover-up, it's obvious they were just trying to stop us knowing about it. The Taliban already knew the names of the people who helped the British because of the leak. They were hiding the truth from us, not them. And if I'm not mistaken, the Taliban have tweeted about this morning.
It was last night, actually.
Last night.
They've said they knew they had the data leak, the database of those interpreters and their family members in their possession since 2022, and confirmed they were hunting down those named ever since. So the kill list of 25,000 Afghan nationals who were still in Afghanistan at the time, they were hunting them down. So
they're saying, well, we already knew, so your data leak didn't tell us anything anyway.
Do you have an issue, Beth, with interpreters and their families coming here?
No.
Interpreters that helped British Army, American soldiers?
I remember being appalled when Biden left, when he left the helicopters and he literally, they went, right, we're out, and the Americans left, the Brits left, almost overnight. I was appalled that we had done that. I genuinely thought it was a despicable pulling out of Afghanistan and leaving it in a diabolical state for more women to be forced to live a subservient life under that awful regime. It was disgusting.
And you know that botched evacuation is now often blamed amongst circles for Putin's invasion of Ukraine because they looked at America and Joe Biden, who didn't know what day of the week it was half the time, and they said, OK, let's go for Ukraine. And
also, of course, the illegal immigration, the asylum seekers, refugees that we're seeing here, so many of them being Afghan, so many of them coming from the Middle East, you can draw a line back to that particular day as well. So let's cover this story in a little bit more detail, of course. We're talking about this data leak of thousands of up to 100,000 lives, including those who served alongside the British military, put at risk by the Ministry of Defence following this breach.
Yeah, but in an attempt to keep the scandal hidden for years, as we've said, the previous Conservative government used an unprecedented super injunction to stop it being reported to you at home.
So Defence Secretary John Healey told GBNews this earlier.
This is a huge data breach that had never been disclosed. It led to the previous government setting up a secret resettlement scheme, bringing Afghans into this country, and covered all by a totally unprecedented super injunction.
So let's talk now to Christopher Hope, our political editor, who is in Westminster this morning. Chris, a lot of these situations that we see, these quite murky, it's a sort of network, it's a chess game which is being played here as well. And I just want to know from you, who benefits from this story this morning? Are Labour making political capital out of this?
Hi, Beverly. Hi, Tom. Ben, sorry. I'm not sure that it's a political story, this. It's one of cock-up. by the government is one where no one apparently has carried the can. We're told by John Healey this morning not to go for a witch hunt to try and find the individual who sent the email. It's now called the most expensive in British history because the cost it led to us having to evacuate nearly 7,000 Afghans, putting at the risk the lives of many more. There was concerns, obviously, about the super injunction. It was applied to be an injunction by the government, by Ben Wallace, the then Defence Secretary, upgraded to a super injunction, i.e. we couldn't even report the existence of the injunction as journalists, and MPs weren't told. And even when John Healey, the guy there just speaking to you moments ago, when he was told about it in late 2023, he couldn't even tell Sir Keir Starmer because of the nature of the injunction. He had to wait until Sir Keir Starmer became Prime Minister last July. And the money set aside, 6 billion or 5 or 6 billion by Rachel Reeves, the maximum we could be on the hook for, some of that money was in that £22 billion black hole, we think, which the government used to justify the cuts to the pensioners and other benefits last July. It's literally a kind of restrained. It's absorbing so much energy we couldn't talk about it, and that is part of the problem. I think the secrecy is disturbing. I do think, though, most would say there needs to be a way to get people out of the country as soon as this leak was done, to avoid people being killed. The kill list, as Ben says there, and that's probably what led to the secrecy. But it does make people make people deeply uncomfortable. And the nature of a super injunction, I've been around journalism for long enough to know these things are often hard to justify.
Chopper, just one more very quick question before I let you go. What else is the government lying about? What other super injunctions may there be doing the rounds?
Well, by the nature, Ben, we don't know. Now, in the Commons yesterday, John Healey said he wasn't aware of any other super injunctions. In the lobby briefing yesterday afternoon, I asked the government this. They weren't aware of any more super injunctions. But by their nature, we can't know about them. Yeah. So I think the fact is it was used here to disguise large-scale spending, large-scale immigration into this country is deeply concerning, but also a slightly invidious situation. What else could ministers do faced with the threat of people losing their lives because of a government cock-up?
OK, thank you so much, Chopper. Speak to you a bit later. Let's get more now with the director of the Afghan Human Rights Foundation, Mohammed Asif. Mohammed, very good morning. Thank you so much. I'm so pleased we've got an Afghan voice on this particular issue, because explain it to us as you see it from your perspective, why the taxpayer money needed to be spent on this.
Thank you. Good morning. Because Britain was in Afghanistan, and they abandoned Afghanistan and left Afghanistan to the Taliban, a brutal regime in a brutal group. If you did not abandon, I'm an anti-war campaigner, basically. I campaign against the war. And I was actively campaigning that, Afghanistan should not be abandoned in that manner, that overnight you leave and throw the entire nation in the sea. And when the Afghans arrive here, and then you leak their details, there's another scandal, and this is really embarrassing, and this is not the fault of Afghans who are supposed to be in Britain, because Britain went to Afghanistan and destabilized Afghanistan and handed over to the Taliban.
Yeah. So, Mohammed, before the data leak, there were thousands of interpreters and family members who they'd argue would or should be in Britain because we owe them loyalty. Why weren't they in Britain? What was the obstacle? Who was campaigning against them coming?
I mean, maybe you have read the report. There was a particular from a man from a particular special force, who allegedly committed war crimes in Afghanistan. One single person refused 1,585 cases at the MOD, because that particular person at the MOD was scared that the interpreters and those who witnessed the alleged war crimes in Afghanistan, they may be used as witnesses in the UK. And that one particular person, refused, nearly 1,600 applicants who were supposed to be in Britain. And that's also investigated by the MOD right now, or there is some sort of inquiry going on in the MOD. And the Afghans, if you stand against the barbarian regime in Afghanistan, the Taliban, who was, I literally say, re-empowered by Britain and America, this time even, left with billions of weapons. Yeah. And the very Afghans who stood with the British forces, military forces, interpreters, and other people who work. I literally had an email 3 days ago from a lady, who indirectly worked with Britain, and she was an activist for women's rights, and she's begging for her life, saying that my life is at risk from the Taliban, and she's abandoned by Britain.
And where are America in all of this, Mohammed? Because, of course, we, the Brits, only abandoned Afghanistan because Biden had made the decision to do so. Are America also taking thousands of Afghanis under the same sense of ethical duty?
I mean, America took more than, Britain. But again, you have a president in America right now, who are trying to deport Afghans, who stood with America. I wrote a letter after 9/11 in 2001 to Tony Blair. And I said, what sort of regime we will have in Afghanistan after the Taliban, their first government was about to be removed. And I received a reply from Tony Blair. This time we will bring, democracy, human rights, women's rights. Yes, fair enough, there were schools, education in the 20 years of occupation in Afghanistan, but there were miseries, for Afghans. Hundreds of thousands of Afghans were killed because some of the Afghans choose to stand with the Western countries in their occupation. And when the very same Afghans arrive here, we are told to go back, you don't belong here. And the bulk lies with the responsibility of day-to-day government in Downing Street, because the Tories headed for, it started in 2022, and then people found out in 2023 when the Labour came, they even, put more ceiling on it so no one knows about it. And now when people find about it, they're crying. It's, I want Keir Starmer to apologize on Wednesday when he stand in Parliament, and he should apologize to the Afghans, the way the Afghans were betrayed by Britain and America and NATO, and the way the Afghans were led. Look, my daughters, my sisters, the Afghan woman, imagine yourself, you might have daughters, you might have family, your sisters, not allowed to go to school, not allowed to go to work, not allowed to go to outside. And this is all because thanks to the British and American and NATO occupation. Why do you have to hand over Afghanistan to the Taliban?
So, sorry to interject there. I mean, you say that's down to the British and American occupation. I mean, that was the situation in Afghanistan when the Taliban ruled before the invasion of Afghanistan. So if you want to be technical about it, the country's just gone back to how it was before Britain and the US got involved, right?
Yes, I mean, even previously when the Taliban were in power, there was some sort of education, but this is worse. You cannot have good Taliban and the bad Taliban. It got worse, especially for women, especially for people who speak, against the Taliban, especially, people who promote women's rights and democracy in education. And this is worse right now. Imagine if I have a haircut like yours, I will get punished for it. Imagine if I shaved and, like you, the way you shave, the way you wear, tie and suit, I will get punished for it in Afghanistan. And this is, we were calling from the very start that this is going to be a failed war in Afghanistan. This is, the diplomacy is going to work in Afghanistan. We were told that we were the sympathizers of the Taliban, and we were proven to be right, that the policies of British and American did not work. And they abandoned. How do you run away 3 o'clock in the morning? The Americans did not even tell the Afghan counterpart or their regime or puppet regime in Afghanistan that we're leaving. The Afghan government only found out when people started looting Bagram Air Base, and then the government realized that the Americans have left the Bagram military base, the biggest military base in Afghanistan. This shows how disregard for the Afghan people, for the Afghan women, the people who stood with Britain and America, and this is where we are now.
It's such a complicated situation. And this is such a big question with a very short time to answer it, Mohammed. What is the best hope now for Afghanistan to be liberated from the Taliban?
I mean, I have asked my First Minister, John Sweeney. I live in Scotland. He's going to write a letter to Keir Starmer. I doubt it. He will do very little about it. That we have to put pressure on the Taliban, especially for women. My sister, my daughters. I have many relatives in Afghanistan who are teachers, female teachers. My niece was a teacher, and she was told to go home and get married. And we want Keir Starmer at least to raise his voice and say what is happening in Afghanistan. It's not in our name. After all, you have spent billions in Afghanistan. I have been to the funeral of Scottish soldiers who were fighting in Afghanistan. I know their families. You know, what do you say to the
just sorry to
families?
interrupt you, but is that Britain's problem, or should you not be getting more help from other Islamic countries nearby?
I mean, the other Islamic countries did not occupy Afghanistan. It was Britain and America and NATO who went to Afghanistan.
I know, but as of today, it is a mess, and the West is culpable, no doubt.
It's a mess,
but now,
who
do you go to for help?
Now, yeah, imagine if I destroy your house. Do you not think that I will go to prison and I will be held responsible? Yeah, Britain came to Afghanistan, NATO, America, and other countries. We were used as a pawns against the Soviet Union. We fought a Cold War where we lost nearly 2 million Afghans. We were abandoned. And I have the exact words of Tony Blair. Let me tell you this, the exact words of Tony Blair. When he told me in his reply to my letter that this time we will, after 9/11, he told me that this time we will not abandon the Afghans and we will stand by you. And this is how you stand with the Afghans running away at 3 o'clock in the morning, abandoning women and children who stand with you.
OK, Mohammed, thank you very much. You are the director of the Afghan Human Rights Foundation. Mohammed Asif, thank you for your time this morning.
Let us know your thoughts on that. And up next, we've got some breaking news, and GB News reporter Tony Maguire is going to bring us more.
Yes, good morning. Well, today is the second diet of Sandy Peggy's workplace harassment trial against NHS Fife, where it has now emerged that the nurse has been cleared of all misconduct charges, the very charges that led to her suspension. We'll have more for you after the break.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
On this day, 4 years ago, GB News was born, launching our first live broadcast on June the 13th, 2021. Let's take a look back at some of our earlier memories.
If you've just switched on, a very warm welcome to you. I am Alistair Stewart, and until 3 p.m. this afternoon, I'll be keeping you company, along with friends and, I hope, friendly guests. I hope you'd agree that we've had a strong hour of debate and discussion so far, but there's lots more still to come. GB News is all about you, our viewers. Any burning questions or stories that you think we need to cover, no matter how big or small, we really do want to hear from you.
Well, we can now speak with former GB News presenter Alistair Stewart. Alistair, thank you so much for joining me. Thinking back to 4 years ago, what did you think the channel's prospects were? Did you think it would be a success?
I did. Thank you so much for having me on, and a very happy birthday to you, one of the many brilliant faces, as we call it in the trade, presenting programmes, but also to the absolutely wonderful team of technicians that you've got behind you, making sure that this all gets on air very smoothly. And we've not only hung on in there, but we've now got GB News Radio as well. Online, we're huge. We get quite good numbers on viewing, very, very good numbers on listening, well ahead some of the other competitors. I do remember when Murdoch launched Talk, there were quite a few people in the newsroom who were nervous, not because they were so good, but because Murdoch had so much more money than we did. We've seen them off. They're virtually dead in the water now, and we are thriving, celebrating 4 years of triumphal and brilliant journalism.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Bev and Ben this week.
Now, the nurse at the centre of a trans tribunal against NHS Fife in Scotland has been cleared of all gross misconduct allegations this morning.
Yes, this is Sandy Peggy. She was suspended after complaining about having to share a changing room with transgender medic Dr Beth Upton at the NHS 5 hospital, where they both worked. Let's get the latest from Tony Maguire, who is there in Scotland. Tony.
Yeah, good morning. Well, today is actually the start of the second diet of these workplace tribunals, with Sandy Peggy taking on Dr Beth Upton and NHS Fife. Now, we learned earlier this week that NHS Fife has paid upwards of £220,000 to defend this case, a case which you might think has, taken a bit of a battering, especially since that Supreme Court ruling earlier in the year. Now, the first diet, 10 days worth of hearings, took place in February, and it's now expected a further 11 days of hearings will commence from today. Of course, this case, this tribunal, all hinges on a series of interactions between Dr Beth Upton and Sandy Peggy, with Sandy Peggy feeling increasingly uncomfortable about sharing a changing room in the hospital where she worked, at a health board where she worked for almost 30 years. These interactions became more and more strenuous until Miss Peggy was suspended. Now, earlier today, that suspension came after a bullying claim from Dr Beth Upton, which led to accusations of gross misconduct. But earlier this morning, Miss Peggy's barrister, Margaret Grubben, came out of the tribunal and delivered this statement to the press.
Yesterday evening, my client Sandy Peggy received confirmation from Fife Health Board, her employer, that following a disciplinary hearing, none of the gross misconduct allegations against her had been upheld. This follows a disciplinary hearing on the 25th of June, which considered 4 gross misconduct allegations, 2 relating to patient care failures, 1 of misgendering Dr Upton, and 1 relating to her encounter with Dr Upton in the female-only workplace changing room on Christmas Eve 2023. Sandy is relieved and delighted that this 18-month-long internal process has concluded and cleared her of all allegations. Thank you. Sandy, what's your reaction?
Well, certainly that was the end of that statement, but it kind of shows now that Miss Peggy has only got to focus on one thing, her and her legal team, on whether or not she was wrongfully terminated or suspended from her role where she worked for almost 30 years. As I said, this is day one of a further diet of 11 tribunal days here in Dundee.
Tony, thanks very much. Appreciate that. Right, let's get stuck into some of the other stories of the day with our panel, Stephen Pound and Mike Parry. Welcome along, chaps.
Yeah, hi.
What do you fancy starting with? This Afghan situation?
I don't think we've got much choice, really, have we? Can I just raise the question? Yeah. Going right back to the start and why this all happened, should we have been there in such numbers in the first place? Should Britain have been there in such numbers in the first place? Because it was Tony Blair once again trying to really kowtow to America, to George W. Bush. George W. Bush at one point even gave the United Kingdom the option not to join in with the Iraq war if we didn't feel we wanted to. But Tony Blair dashed into that. We dashed into Afghanistan. Should we have been there in such numbers, considering it was a NATO operation, and as usual, in NATO operations, you find about 80% of the troops are British.
Was it a NATO operation?
It was a NATO operation.
Wasn't it a US operation to find bin Laden?
But there was but supported by NATO. That's what I'm saying.
With an extremely large Polish contingent, very large Canadian. Look, I think your general question, Mike, is much more interesting. Should we actually be involved in these sort of imperialist participation? I mean, because it worked in Sierra Leone, it worked in East Timor, it worked in the South Balkans. Yeah. But should we have been there in the first place? I mean, I think this whole thing is a chapter of horrors and a chapter of absolute nightmare. And I think you've got to go back that day, August the 15th, 2023. Rishi Sunak is the Prime Minister. He suddenly realises that out there in the internet there's the details of 300,000 people, their names, addresses and emails addresses of people who actually were associated with the British forces. Panic. Now, as you know, at that particular time, the famous thing, Dominic Raab was on the beach, and half the cabinet were on holiday, and James Heappey had just about to take over as Defence Secretary. The initial reaction was completely panicked, but I think they did the right thing. They did the right thing under the circumstances. I have to ask myself, what would I have done? What would anybody else have done? Suddenly faced. And so what they did was they set up immediately this Afghan ARAP. But the thing you've got to remember is most of these Afghan victims are in two places. They're either in Pakistan or Iran. We have no way of getting people out of Iran, and today there are thousands of Afghans being forcibly moved out of Iran back into Afghanistan. And in Pakistan, we had a relocation office in Islamabad. Guess what? The Pakistan government today is forcing people, Afghans out. So how do we reach these people? The people that worry me are the ones who are hiding in caves in northern Afghanistan in fear of their lives. But what the hell can we do to help them?
But once again, I mean, it's a terrible mess. I mean, this central figure, 18,700 Afghans who'd applied to come to the UK, that's the list that's been leaked. That's been expanded to 100,000 on the basis of dependents from those families. I don't believe it. No. I think that once again, people are saying there's an opportunity here to get to the United Kingdom. And I'm reading into it this morning. I noticed that a lot of people who want to come were not involved in any way with being employed by the British government, but simply say, life under the Taliban is unbearable. I want to come to the UK.
John Healey's closed that loophole. But, I mean, look, if you say every single person who's in the Triples, you know, the Afghan army, if you say that every single one of them has a right to come here, then that's impossible. That's untenable. What we have to do is to say those people who are employed, as you say, by the army or fought with the Brits, you know, that's a different case. But we cannot simply say every single person. It's exactly like the Americans in Vietnam. Remember, in the Army of the Republic of Vietnam, there was a question of every single person should have the right to come to America. The Americans said, you must be joking.
But Afghan is a real stain on this country, isn't it? None of us will forget Wootton Bassett, will we? And these soldiers coming home after being blown up, having their legs blown off. People have got a question now with this coming up again. Why were we there in the first place? What were we doing there?
That is what I've been sort of turning over in my mind all morning is what is the moral to this story from start to finish? What do we learn? And I'm with you, Mike, is why are we meddling in other countries in that way?
We didn't need to meddle in that one. I totally agree. Also, and, you know, Stephen will know more about this than me, Afghanistan was always the unfightable war. Because of the terrain, because of Afghanistan being what it is, nobody's ever won in Afghanistan. We didn't win the last time round. Why did we think we would this time?
We fought 3 wars. Remember Kipling saying, when you're wounded and lying on Afghanistan's plains and the women come out to cut off what remains, roll to your rifle, blow out your brains and go to your God like a
Exactly.
And we've never won. But the question is, liberal interventionism is the question. I think we have a duty. Afghanistan, we fought there for 200 years.
And lost the Light Brigade. We should have given up then.
Well, I think that was in Crimea.
The reason the Taliban was so well equipped was because the CIA funded and arms the Mujahideen. So.
Precise, absolutely correct. Yeah, because it was an anti-Russian thing. Because this is a great game. Afghanistan between the West and Russia, and we use them as a chess piece.
And it makes you think we've learnt nothing.
Makes you think who funded and armed ISIS, wasn't it?
Well, also, Stephen, Mike, thank you. You'll be back in the next hour. Let's go to San Francisco for a 60-second news update.
Very good morning to you. The headlines just after 10:30. Inflation has hit a near 18-month high, rising to 3.6% in June as food prices soar for the third month in a row. Transport costs also spiked, with airfares marking their largest monthly jump in 7 years. The Defence Secretary says he can't say for sure if anyone was killed after a major data breach exposed thousands of Afghans who helped UK forces. The leak led to a secret £850 million relocation scheme. Thousands of Afghans are now being moved to the UK. The Co-op, meanwhile, has confirmed every one of its 6.5 million members had their data stolen in a cyber attack. Names, addresses and contact details were accessed. 4 people have since been arrested over the hack, including a 17-year-old boy. A major NHS review says physician associates should be renamed assistants and banned from diagnosing patients. The report comes after cases where families mistakenly thought their loved ones were treated by doctors. Southern Water has announced a hosepipe ban affecting nearly 1 million people in Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. With river levels critically low, violators could face a £1,000 fine. And 20 people have died in a deadly crowd surge at an aid site in southern Gaza. 19 were trampled and 1 stabbed during the crush. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation claims the site was stormed by Hamas-linked agitators. Those are the headlines for now. I'll be back with your news at 11.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
I love this story because Andrew and I were talking about it a few months ago. Well, this
I think
advert,
you got it banned, didn't you?
I like to think we've played a part in this. We've done our bit for the beef farmers in this country. Let me tell you, the Advertising Standards Authority banned this.
Where's the beef?
You can't keep your baby because we want your milk.
Looks like a scene from Britain in 200 years, The Matrix. Humans being farmed for their milk. Anyway, the vegan charity behind that advert, which has now been banned, they join us next.
Good morning, this is your latest GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Now for many, today is going to be drier than it was yesterday, but not everywhere. That's because there is a front across parts of the southwest. This is bringing more cloud here, even some outbreaks of rain, particularly across Devon and Cornwall, but some of that rain is likely to push into parts of Dorset, Somerset, maybe Wiltshire and the south of Wales as well. Elsewhere, and a few showers are quite likely across parts of southern Scotland, maybe northern, northeastern England and down the eastern side. Otherwise, though, it's looking largely dry, decent amount of sunshine, and with that sunshine, temperatures rising. It's going to be a bit warmer than yesterday, highs of around 26, 27, possibly 28 Celsius. Then as we go through into this evening, still a few showers dotted around across some central southern parts of Scotland, but a fine end to the day across many northern parts and towards Aberdeenshire as well in the east. Also largely fine across Northern Ireland, a decent amount of sunshine here, and for many parts of northern England, central eastern England and North Wales, just one or two showers perhaps. But still in the southwest it is going to be quite cloudy and there's more rain to come. None of it especially heavy for the time being, but as we go overnight, more wet weather feeds its way into western areas, so across parts of Wales and across Northern Ireland, and it's here where we're likely to see some relatively intense rain, could even start to turn a bit thundery. Similar to last night, it's not going to be especially chilly. Temperatures for many holding up in double figures, some places only falling to around 17 or 18 Celsius, so pretty warm indeed. And then as we go through tomorrow, quite wet across some western parts. Like I said, it's across Northern Ireland where we're going to have the heaviest, most intense rain, potential for some high rainfall totals and some thundery downpours. Some of that wet weather pushing into parts of Scotland and down the western side of England and Wales as well. Staying drier though towards the east, and temperatures, if anything, a little bit higher than today.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the M48 eastbound, the Severn Bridge is closed with diversions. In Bolton, the M61 southbound entry slip at Junction 5 is shut following an accident. The A92 Crossgates off-slip is partially blocked due to a road incident, so drive carefully. Nottinghamshire drivers on the A1 northbound face disruptions as all lanes are closed following a collision likely to resolve around 1:15 this afternoon. Greater London's M25 anti-clockwise between junctions 30 and 28 is experiencing heavy congestion. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom, 10:40. Ben and Bev with you on GB News.
So vegan charity Beaver's Dairy is Scary cinema advert has been banned by the Advertising Standards Authority for being irresponsible and distressing. So if you're easily distressed, don't watch, otherwise take a look.
What have you done with my baby?
You can't keep your baby because we want your milk.
Almost every dairy calf is taken from their mother shortly after birth, so most of her milk can be sold to us. And what do you think happens to thousands of male babies like this one?
Well, in February, we had dairy farmer Kelly Seaton and Viva's campaigns manager Ben Needham debate this matter as it was seen as an attack on the livelihoods of dairy farmers. This is what happened.
It's deliberate. We're trying to draw attention to the connection. We're trying to make people realise. We're trying to make people remember so that when they leave the cinema, they are thinking, actually, is that okay?
We've got a generation of kids who have got awful mental health problems because they're so anxious, they're so scared that they're already going to ruin the planet, that they can't do anything. And this is just another thing we're adding on the list, isn't it, Kelly?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the problem is that this is propaganda. I can say that we've had 2 vegetarian vet students and a vegan family member come to this farm, all of whom I've not bombarded them with information, I've just shown them the facts, shown them the reality of dairy farming, and all 3 of them have chosen a more flexitarian lifestyle.
So that was back in February. Let's speak now to the Director of Communications for the vegan charity Viva, Faye Lewis. Faye, good morning. How disappointed are you that your adverts got banned?
Good morning. I was laughing before the break. Was that an admittance that you were one of the people who complained to the ASA about...
Get her, Faye.
No, Faye.
Get her, Faye.
No, listen, I didn't personally complain, but we certainly drew attention on the show. It's about the fact that it was propaganda, it was scary, and I didn't think it was appropriate to show it to kids.
Well, it wasn't ever intended to be shown to kids. For a start, the ASA ruling that the Dairy is Scary advert was irresponsible, likely to cause unjustified distress and widespread offence. The ASA ignored that the actual Cinema Advertising Association, the CAA, who carefully vetted the advert before screening it, found it completely fine to show that to an audience of people aged 15 and over. So this was never going to be intended to be seen by children. What was interesting was that the ASA's own draft recommendation concluded that it didn't actually breach any of the rules and that its content was entirely appropriate for that audience. But what was weird is the ASA Council, they're the body that makes the final decisions, they completely ignored their own experts. They disregarded the CAA's professional approval and just banned the advert outright. So how upset am I? I'm upset, but it's not the first time that this has happened. We received very few complaints. 3.5 million people have now seen this advert, and out of that, only 25 complaints have been made, which is like 0.0025% of the total cinema viewers. So, I don't think it's widespread.
Just remind us, so where was it meant to be screened? In cinemas? I assume, I guess, ahead of films that are 15 plus, right? Not on national television.
Yeah, absolutely. It was to be aired for 15 plus, and it was also to do with like the horror genre, science fiction, right. Those kind of genres. It wasn't going to be widespread anywhere.
You say that you had 25 complaints, but how many people did you make vegan?
Very hard to tell. No idea. We went out on the outreach. We've talked to people since, and we got reaction videos, and some people have been very open to the idea. We've got people who are happy to kind of reduce their meat or dairy intake. We've had a few people say they'd go vegan on the spot, but I don't know how many in terms of numbers. Your guess is as good as mine.
Do you think, Faye, indirectly, you've probably had more success and PR anyway with the advert being banned, people like Bev talking about it and trying to censor it?
Backfired, didn't it?
Has it worked out like that?
We'll find out after today. The ASA only published their ruling this morning, but you know what? You know as well as I do that when things are banned, people will go and look at it. It's just the kind of nature of what we've got. But they say no publicity is bad publicity.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily true. I hope in this case that we do get a lot more people watching it, to be honest.
How are things for vegans at the moment? And what I mean by that is there's a huge amount on social media about keto diets, protein-loading diets. People are moving away, it seems, from the notion of a plant-based diet. We've had certain supermarkets who've even ditched their lines of plant-based because lots of people are saying, you know what, we've always eaten animals as human beings. We can get everything we need from animal protein. We need to eat more meat, not less.
Yeah, no, the figures have sort of stayed the same, which is quite interesting. the Vegan Society last year published a study that said 3% of people, roughly, which isn't a huge amount, admittedly, are vegan. However, what we're seeing is a huge uptake in the amount of people that are eating, reducing their meat intake and their dairy intake. I think it's something, in terms of red meat, especially because of, as you know, a lot of the health concerns around that. It's linked to type 2 diabetes, it's a carcinogen. And what we're seeing in terms of the health side of things, people are starting to listen to those kind of things a lot more. And they're reducing, there's a lot more flexitarians, there's a lot more meat reducers. We're up, you've got to remember as vegans, we're up against these huge meat and dairy juggernauts. You know, I think it was 24.4 billion that the meat industry was valued at in 2024. And they've got all of this money at their disposal. They're able to lobby. You know, we're always fighting these huge, propaganda machines when it comes to kind of health. But what's interesting is in recent years, as you've kind of touched on with the supermarkets and things, rather than just advertising their own products, which is something that historically the meat and dairy industry have always done, they've started to attack vegan products. And I don't think they actually care about people like me, like vegans. I don't. I think they're quite concerned, though, around the number of people who are reducing the amount of meat that they eat, or the flexitarians and the vegetarians. Because when you take that market and you add it to kind of the vegan market, you're looking at around 9 million people. So in terms of like profit for the meat and dairy industries, that's a big, you know, that's a big financial loss.
Yeah, well,
so I think,
good, because we need our farmers. But Faye, for a vegan,
I agree with farming. I fully support farmers. Seriously, I get my fruit and veg box from local farms.
Good,
you know what I mean?
good,
I fully endorse that.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And for a vegan, you look very healthy, if you don't mind me saying so. Faye Lewis there, Director of Communications.
I think that was a compliment.
That's all right. It was.
Anyway, the Advertising Standards Agency said, although the ad did not depict the baby being harmed and it was not shown being physically removed, we considered that its disappearance was likely to be seen as shocking and unsettling. For those reasons, we concluded that the ad was irresponsible and likely to cause unjustified distress and serious and widespread offence. I'm not a vegan, I love steak too much, and butter, real dairy butter, and full-fat milk as well, and cream. But there is something to be said about factory farming and mass-produced farming.
True. Right, moving on. If you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the weather before you get on your plane.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
There's the risk of some more heavy, thundery downpours affecting eastern parts of Europe as we go through the rest of this week. But across western areas towards the Canary Islands, Madeira, across much of Spain and Portugal, it's largely fine on Thursday. A decent amount of sunshine and feeling very warm or hot in that sunshine as well. Some showery rain likely across much of Italy, drier towards the south, but across parts of Greece, Turkey, there will be a fair few showers on offer. A drier theme for many through the end of the week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Ben and Bev this morning. It's 10:52. Right, pause up for our furry friends, because the rural community are out in force to celebrate the traditions of hound breeding at this year's Festival of Hound, which returns to the East of England show in Peterborough. Joining us now is the Chief Exec of the Countryside Alliance, Tim Bonner. Tim, good morning. Thank you for your company. The show seems to be up and running. Tell us, please, what's it all about?
Well, it's sort of a cross between Crufts and Royal Ascot, I suppose. It's a gathering of all the hunts from across the country, from the north of Northumberland to the west of Wales, bringing their hounds, their foxhounds, their beagles, all bassets, all sorts of hounds, to show, to be judged against each other, to see which are the prettiest and most handsome hounds in the country. And really, it's just a great opportunity for the hunting world, that important part of the rural community, to come together and to celebrate hunting, but most of all hounds, which is central for so much.
Tim, we are quite short on time, unfortunately, so apologies. We'll try and get you back later on in the show, but if people want to find out more about this event, where can they go? And how long is it on for?
Go to the Festival of Hounds website.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Tim. Tim there at the Festival of Hounds. As someone who's terrified of dogs...
You don't like dogs?
No, I'm scared of dogs. I'm getting
Why
better.
is that? Anything in particular? Were you chased as a child?
Not in this life. No, not that I know. No, not that I know of. I'm getting better, though. As regular viewers of this show will know, we've even had dogs in the studio and I haven't run for the door. Yeah, I've always been a bit iffy around dogs. I know they're man's best friends. They're beautiful. It's just, I don't know. Something as a child. I think I was chased by a rabies-ridden dog in Greece when I was a kid. That'll do it. When you say you think you are. No, I think that happened. Oh. Yeah. Right, OK, we've got some psychotherapy to do in the advert breaks, but still to come, Lib Dem leader Sir Ed Davey has pulled no punches on Nigel Farage and his energy plan. We're going to bring you the details in just a minute. Here's the weather.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. This is your latest GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Now, for many, today is going to be drier than it was yesterday, but not everywhere. That's because there is a front across parts of the southwest. This is bringing more cloud here, even some outbreaks of rain, particularly across Devon and Cornwall. But some of that rain is likely to push into parts of Dorset, Somerset, maybe Wiltshire and the south of Wales as well. Elsewhere, and a few showers are quite likely across parts of southern Scotland, maybe northern, northeastern England and down the eastern side. Adelaide. Otherwise, though, it's looking largely dry, decent amount of sunshine, and with that sunshine, temperatures rising. It's going to be a bit warmer than yesterday, highs of around 26, 27, possibly 28 Celsius. Then as we go through into this evening, still a few showers dotted around across some central southern parts of Scotland, but a fine end to the day across many northern parts and towards Aberdeenshire as well in the east. Also largely fine across Northern Ireland, a decent amount of sunshine here, and for many parts of northern England, central eastern England and North Wales, just one or two showers perhaps. But still in the southwest it is going to be quite cloudy and there's more rain to come. None of it especially heavy for the time being, but as we go overnight, more wet weather feeds its way into western areas, so across parts of Wales and across Northern Ireland, and it's here where we're likely to see some relatively intense rain, could even start to turn a bit thundery. Similar to last night, it's not going to be especially chilly. Temperatures for many holding up in double figures, some places only falling to around 17 or 18 Celsius, so pretty warm indeed. And then as we go through tomorrow, quite wet across some western parts. Like I said, it's across Northern Ireland where we're going to have the heaviest, most intense rain, potential for some high rainfall totals and some thundery downpours. Some of that wet weather pushing into parts of Scotland and down the western side of England and Wales as well. Staying drier though towards the east, and temperatures, if anything, a little bit higher than today.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash, so make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Very good morning to you. It's 11 o'clock on Wednesday, July the 16th, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Ben Leo and Bev Turner.
Afghan cover-up at a cost of £850 million to you. Britain's biggest data leak, as it's being called, which was sparked by one email, revealed that many asylum seekers were snuck into the UK, and we, the British public, knew nothing about it for 2 years. Defence Secretary John Healey spoke to GB News Breakfast.
I've ended this special secret scheme. I've disclosed this data breach, and importantly allowed the judge to respond to my application to have the super injunction lifted. So the British people deserve answers, and from today they can start to get them.
Well, that was the government. What about the Tories, who this scandal initially started under? This is Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride this morning.
When this data was leaked, which was a terrible error on the part of the Ministry of Defence and should never, ever happen again. It's extraordinary it happened in the first place. But it did place at risk tens of thousands of Afghans who had, in many cases, bravely assisted us.
When I listen to people like Nigel Farage complaining about the high price of energy, he blames it on renewables and isn't honest with people. He isn't honest that actually it's the high price of gas that's caused the cost of living problem. And he comes on programmes like yours, he tells you the problem, he doesn't have a solution. His solution would actually play into the hands of his friend Vladimir Putin.
That is, of course, Lib Dem leader Sir Ed Davey launching a verbal attack on the Reform leader because of his backing of fossil fuels.
Britain is open for business, open for trade and open for investment.
That's an optimistic-sounding Chancellor Rachel Reeves at the annual Mansion House speech last night in the City of London. But back to reality this morning with a bit of a crash because inflation rises to a 16-month high of 3.6% in June.
We've got this bizarre billionaire tax mystery. His Majesty's Revenue and Customs has come under fire, forget this, having no idea how many billionaires pay tax in the UK.
And trans hospital row. A nurse in Fife is cleared of misconduct after she complained about sharing a changing room with a transgender doctor.
Sandy Peggy, the nurse, NHS Fife nurse of 30 years who was suspended for objecting to sharing changing rooms with Dr Beth Upton, has been cleared of misconduct. The news comes as she begins the second diet of hearings in her workplace tribunal against the Health Board here in Dundee.
Kemi Badenoch will take on the Prime Minister at PMQs today from midday. We'll bring you all the build-up.
You can't keep your baby because we want your milk.
And all thanks to our very own Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce, a vegan charity advert, you saw it just there, which features a baby being taken from its mother, has been banned for being irresponsible, distressing and likely to cause offence. But is it simply censorship?
Rachel Reeves, she was sounding like last night at the Mansion House speech. She was trying to be optimistic. I know we said she sounded optimistic. I'm not sure that was quite the right word.
She's had a bit of a glow up as well. Looks a lot more confident and
a few highlights.
Healthier, dare I say, compared to, was it a couple of weeks ago in the Commons? So good to see her in fine form. I just wish, though...
that the economy was as well?
Yeah, well, that. And I just wish, not just Rachel Reeves, I'm singling out here, but politicians generally, I just wish they'd talk like human beings. I don't know why they have to sound so robotic all the time.
Somebody hands them a script, Ben, and says, say that. Just say that, because that's what you can only conclude by the way that her and Starmer speak.
Surely, if you have intention and authenticity about what you mean and you know what you're talking about, you don't need a script. Just, I mean, look at Nigel Farage. I'll tell you now a secret, some of you may know it. On GB News, when he does his show, he doesn't use auto-cue. He doesn't need a scroller with the words in front of him because he knows what he's talking about, and I guess he means it as well. There's probably a few other politicians who do the same, but just try and be normal.
As she nervously puts a scroller in her pocket. Do you see that?
Who?
Me.
Oh, you. Yeah.
I mean, look, this is the thing. If you can talk from the heart, if you believe in it, if you know what you believe in and you can talk about it, you shouldn't have to be constantly sounding like you're reading a script.
Yeah. I'm glad the Chancellor's feeling better. Anyway, big last hour coming up. Let's get your news headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom. Just coming up to 5 minutes past 11. Well, inflation has unexpectedly jumped to 3.6%, the highest level in 18 months, driven by rising food and travel costs. Those food prices have now surged for the third month in a row, with airfares seeing their biggest monthly hike in 7 years. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, says working people are still struggling and insists there is more to do to bring prices down. The Bank of England, though, is still expected to cut interest rates in August, but experts say the inflation spike could slow further cuts. Sir Ben Wallace has said he makes no apology for blocking reports of a major data leak exposing thousands of Afghans who helped British forces. He insists it was about protecting lives from Taliban retribution, not a cover-up. Well, nearly 19,000 names were leaked by a defence official in 2022, prompting a new UK relocation scheme. That secret £850 million programme, launched last year, is moving thousands of Afghans to safety, known as the Afghanistan Response Route. A nurse suspended after complaining about sharing a changing room with a transgender colleague has been cleared of gross misconduct. Sandy Peggy was accused of misgendering Dr. Beth Upton and of patient care failings, but a disciplinary panel found no evidence to support the claims. NHS Fife says no sanctions will be imposed, but the case has already cost the Health Board more than £220,000. The tribunal follows a Supreme Court ruling defining sex in law as biological. International news, and 20 people have died in a deadly crowd surge at an aid site in southern Gaza, according to the US and Israel-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. 19 people were trampled and one stabbed at the centre in Khan Yunis, with reports it was stormed by Hamas-linked agitators. Local hospital officials also say over 10 people died after private guards closed the gates to that area. And staying with news in the Middle East, just a breaking development from Israel and Syria. The situation there appears to be taking a turn. The entrance to Syria's military headquarters in Damascus has reportedly been struck by a raid from the Israeli Defense Forces. Live pictures here you can see showing smoke rising near the Israeli-Syria buffer zone as troops have been trying today to disperse crowds on that border. It follows Israeli airstrikes on Syrian troops and Hezbollah targets in eastern Lebanon. In just recent hours, Israel saying those strikes are a warning to the new Syrian administration. Back here at home, Southern Water has announced a hosepipe ban for nearly 1 million people across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. It follows weeks of dry weather and critically low river levels. The ban means no watering gardens, no washing cars or filling paddling pools. And those caught out could risk a £1,000 fine. Bosses say it's vital to protect rare habitats and wildlife, and warn that demanding more water could make the crisis worse. And the Co-op has confirmed every one of its 6.5 million members had their data stolen in a cyber attack. The supermarket's boss says she's devastated, and she felt the hack was personal because of the toll it took on her staff. No financial data was taken, but names, addresses and contact details were accessed. 4 people have since been arrested over the hack, including a 17-year-old boy. That's the news on GB News. I'll be back with your 60-second update, lucky you, in around half an hour's time. Now, though, it's back to Britain's Newsroom.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Sam. Good morning to you. It's 10 past 11. Ben and Bev with you on Britain's Newsroom. Thank you for your company so far and for your emails. Do you want to start, ladies, first?
Sure. So Annie has been in touch. Morning, Annie, talking about that vegan advert being banned. And she says, in my opinion, that advert is awful and way over the top. I'm glad it's been banned. Well done, Bev. Can't take all credit for it, but Andrew and I did lay into it at the time.
But we did clarify with the charity a few moments ago, it was only shown in cinemas, not on national television, and it was on ahead of horror films, and sci-fi films for over 15. So, although I would see how small children might find it scary, small children weren't seeing it. So.
No. I know you. I'm not normally a fan of censorship, Ben, as you know, but it was the propaganda element, and I'm on board. You know, I just love our farmers. I just want our farmers to survive, and the dairy industry is already getting hard enough time. Maz has said, stop moaning about what's going on in your country. This is about Afghanistan. Get back there and fight like we had to do in World War I and World War II. Stop expecting our men and women to die and be maimed, then come running back here. Fight for your own freedom, says Maz.
Similar theme from Seta or Sita. Good morning. You said, hi both. Not sure if this will get read out, but here goes. Just wondering why don't the young men and women stay and fight? Well, let's be honest, it's young men mostly, isn't it? Young men and women fight for their country in Afghanistan. People complain all the time about Israel and how bad they treat the Arab population. But the young men and women in Israel fight for their country and identity. They are surrounded by countries on all sides who would like to have them all gone, but still they stay and protect their homeland. Stop blaming the UK for all the wrongs in the world. Yeah, that was the Afghani guest we had earlier.
And on the vegan issue as well, Quicksilver, who is a member, thank you for your support, says, having lived in Africa most of my life, I will include the following. A controlled feeding trial in rural Kenya compared different school snacks. The group receiving a meat-supplemented snack saw nearly doubling of mid-arm muscle area, stronger gains in cognitive tests and physical activity, better behavioural outcomes compared to milk or plant-based snacks. Another study found that toddlers in low-income regions who ate meat were significantly less likely to be stunted or wasted compared to those who didn't.
Yeah, I fully believe it. There's famous people who have gone on the carnivore diet, which is just eating meat, pretty much steak all day. People like Jordan Peterson, who was absolutely riddled with autoimmune diseases, eczema all over his skin, and he credits, and his daughter, what's his daughter called? Is it Mahika? Credits their vitality and health with going on a carnivore diet. I mean, I don't know if it's true, but that's their own experience.
And in fact, one of our viewers who, I can't find it right now, messaged also along those lines to say how pleased he was about, he or she, about the work that Robert Kennedy Jr. is doing in America, head of Health and Social Services in America, because he is also trying to raise awareness of the fact that animal protein is really important via a series of... Here we go, Quicksilver, it was you again. I love what RFK Jr. is doing in the States. Studies are going to be an eye-opener. Meat contains all the essential proteins necessary for human life.
Yeah. OK, let's move on. The Liberal Democrats leader, Sir Ed Davey, has launched a rather scathing attack on Nigel Farage for backing fossil fuel policies that, quote, only benefit foreign dictators.
So this is what he told GBNews a little earlier.
I listen to people like Nigel Farage complaining about the high price of energy. He blames it on renewables and isn't honest with people. He isn't honest that actually it's the high price of gas that's caused the cost of living problem. And he comes on programmes like yours, he tells you the problem. He doesn't have a solution. His solution would actually play into the hands of his friend Vladimir Putin.
Let's talk to the leader of the Liberal Democrats at Liverpool, Carl Cashman. Carl, good morning. With respect, Sir Ed Davey is still confused about what a woman is, so why should anybody take him seriously?
Don't really see what that's got to do with this, Ben. I think, you know, he's
talking about judgment, I guess.
Programs such as, well, he's talking about programmes such as yours, kind of having the likes of Nigel Farage on and not pulling them up. So, you know, you talk about judgment there and, you know, you criticise Ed Davey, but you don't seem very keen to criticise Nigel Farage when he comes on your show. And I think we've got a person there that is coming up with all these problems and telling us what's wrong with society, but then has absolutely no solutions for it.
Let me tell you, when Nigel Farage goes on any TV show, on any channel in this country, he is roundly criticised for what he says, and we will hold everybody to account as we do. What is the solution then, Carl, that Ed Davey talks about? He says Nigel doesn't have one. What would the Lib Dems do to solve our energy crisis?
Yeah, well, there's, I mean, in the first instance, Bev, it's about a proper windfall tax, which means that we would bring in that money and we would make those energy companies actually pay their fair share. And in the second instance, it's about making the more wealthy or the people that cause this energy crisis pay. So the water companies, we believe that they should be renationalised and they should be made a public benefit company. We also believe that we should have a private jet flight tax, for example, because it's those small amounts of people that are causing the most issues when it comes to both polluting the environment, but also the issues that we face with energy.
Carl, we have a windfall tax at the moment.
Yeah, I know, but it's not a proper full windfall tax. I mean, Labour have been extremely tame on what they've brought in. The Tories didn't want to hear it. I'd be interested to see what Nigel Farage says about it, but I'm not entirely sure what he's got to say about it because, as I say, he's all problems and zero solutions.
So okay, you want a bigger windfall tax. What would you do with the money? What would a Lib Dem government do with that cash?
Well, first of all, it's about making sure that we put money back in people's pockets. And, one of the first things, and probably something that both ourselves and Reform agree on, is scrapping the 2-child benefit cap. There's many people in this country and many children that are in poverty that you could take out of poverty instantly by scrapping that cap. Now, I've just told you about a windfall tax there and some other policies. That's the Liberal Democrats' way of paying for that. Reform have said they will scrap the 2-child benefit cap and haven't told us how they'll pay for it.
Right, they did. Sorry, they said they did. They said they'd scrap net zero for starters and stop asylum hotels.
That's what a load of nonsense, Ben. Like scrapping net zero. So scrapping net zero would lead to more issues with the cost of living crisis and energy problems.
Would it? Why? In which way?
What do you mean in which way? Because if we scrap net zero, we will be more reliant on gas. So in that way. So
sorry, in what way? Sorry, you just said scrapping net zero is nonsense. Would lead to more instability and whatever else you said. You haven't explained. How would it? Because it would save tens of billions of pounds a year. That's how they'd fund the tax cuts.
What are you talking about? If you scrap net zero, you scrap the use of renewables, which means that we're more reliant on fossil fuels, which means that we're more reliant on the likes of Russia, which is exactly what Ed Davey set out before.
Carl, would you be up for fracking? What about fracking?
Of the likes of Putin?
In order to create that national security, then, would you be in favour of fracking in this country?
I mean, that's a whole other debate, Bev, isn't it? Like, and it's something that I've not looked into personally, fracking. It's, a whole other issue. I just think that the use of fossil fuels and things that add to the environmental issue in this country is not something that we should be going back on. Yeah. And, we need to have a balanced debate, don't we, about, so I always think that environmentalists cause themselves problems when they talk about net zero, but it's like an absolutist view of net zero. So it's like, we've got to get there no matter what. I think you've got to get there, but you've got to take normal, ordinary working people on that journey with you. Mm-hmm. And I do agree that a lot of politicians in this country don't make that argument in that way. And that's what gets people's back up about the likes of net zero. So we've got to do it, but we've got to get people on that journey with us, and we've got to make it make sense to themselves and their pockets as well.
Carl, I find you quite fascinating. I'd like you to come back another day. You aren't what I expected at all as the leader of the Liverpool Liberal Democrats. So we like having Liberal Democrats on. We don't have enough of you, so please come on again. I'd really appreciate it. Carl Cashman there. You weren't as quite as fascinated by him as I was.
Well, no, I mean, he's saying what happens if you scrap net zero, your reliance on Russia and Putin, which is what Ed Davey was parroting this morning, and then you ask about fracking, he says it's a different issue. It's not. With fracking, if you turn the countryside into Swiss cheese and become reliant and you tap into the liquid gold underneath your feet, then you're not reliant on importing gas from Russia. So it's not a different issue, but...
No, but he wasn't what I expected from the Liberal Democrats. Was he you? I kind of always think they're sort of, middle-aged people in a cardigan they've knitted themselves, sat there with their muesli, sort of brewing in the kitchen.
No, you're right. And I'm sorry, I'll say again, I started that interview by saying Ed Davey doesn't even know what a woman is, and he still doesn't. He still thinks women can have penises. So, and my point, I'd argue, is still correct. Your judgment. If you don't know what a woman is, how seriously can we take you on anything else?
What do you think? GBNews.com/your say. Still plenty of time to grab 54,000.
We're here at Downhall in Essex to enjoy the finer things in life, and it's your chance to win £54,321 in cash. It's like having an extra £1,000 in your bank account each week for a whole year, which means that you'd be able to indulge in treats whenever you wanted to. That extra cash each week could send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing this year to enable you to sit back, relax and do nothing. Make sure you don't miss out on our biggest cash giveaway to date.
For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck. Up next, we're just laughing at one of the messages saying, Bev, you're becoming more woke by the day. No, I'm not. I just thought he was quite interesting. Right, up next, find out how the Chancellor plans to boost economic growth in Britain.
You're with Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain. Its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Two separate stories. Welcome back. So in breaking news now, 34-year-old Lindsay Smith from Newcastle. Do you remember her? She was a Toon Army fan. There she is. She's won her case against the Chief Constable of Northumbria Police.
So Miss Smith claimed that the force's uniformed participation in last year's Newcastle Pride March breaks the professional oath sworn by police officers to act with impartiality.
And I have to say, this will have, well, I guess it will have widespread implications on police forces all across the country, including mine in Sussex. Brighton coppers especially love going down to Pride every August and getting in their rainbow cars and doing the Macarena.
It'll be much wider than that, won't it? I mean, Steve and I were just discussing it. What about the forces, the armed forces? Surely it will cover them as well, won't it? Will it cover all public bodies?
Well, it won't, because this case is specifically to the Chief Constable of Northumberland.
Yeah, but it will spread, I'm sure, as Ben says. You know, the knock-on effect, hopefully, will permeate through society.
We don't know what the actual wording of the judgment was, but this is a specific case from a specific woman against a specific Chief Constable.
Yeah.
And I must admit, I would have thought, you know, we had, you know, Gay Pride Day and month and week and God knows what. I thought we've actually made the case. Well, we've moved on from the horrors.
I totally agree with you. What I'm saying is, I think the recognition of gay community in our civilised society is absolute. I don't think there's anybody, I don't think there's any voice anywhere in the country now which says it's a bad thing or it's different or you're not like me. I think it's completely acceptable. And I still get very annoyed. I went to a hospital recently where the zebra crossing from one side of the road to the other had also, you know, the rainbow stripes all over the place. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't need that pushed in my face anymore. I know there's a gay community. I live alongside them. It's happy and it's acceptable. Why do you keep pushing it?
Hang on, Mike, don't you want to know who you want to sleep with?
Sorry?
You're not interested in who I want to sleep with?
No, not at all. Not at all.
It's not very inclusive.
No, I'm sorry. What I'm saying is, I live my life, you live your life, and, you know, we all live in harmony. I don't see the need anymore for the gay community to keep insisting on telling us they're gay and they must be accepted as gay, because I think everybody accepts it.
I think we can accept, actually, you know, in all honesty, we have moved on. I mean, don't forget, back in the 60s, if you were found to be a gay man or a woman in the armed forces, you could get sent to the rattle. You could be put in prison for it.
Yes.
So we've moved on from there, I think. And the question, do we still need to do it? And the
that's what I'm saying.
It's now acquired a momentum of its own. And as I said, I mean, somebody said to me the other day, it's not gay pride, and it's almost like gay arrogance. It's almost like...
It is gay arrogance. You're absolutely right.
For a month at a time. And I mean, the whole of June seems to be taken up with it now.
It would be great to find out what the Police Federation, their comments on this case, because are we now going to see police forces all across the country banning their officers from going to Pride?
Yeah.
I'd argue they should. I think Lindsay's case here, Lindsay Smith, was a great one, and congrats to her for winning it.
And what about the Royal Navy?
Yeah, well, exactly. But you still see adverts in papers from major companies, major international organisations saying, we are celebrating Gay Pride Month, as you've just said. But, I mean, why make it so public anymore?
You've also got Black History Month.
The only thing I would say in terms of the gay rights and the fact that we all sit here and recognise that is a completely normal
But we're
lifestyle.
not typical of the whole nation, are we?
Well... And also, we're not typical of people who might have come to live in this country from other cultures that would still push people off the top of buildings for being gay. So let's just keep an eye on that balance. Maybe they shouldn't be here in the first place.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And also, Bev, there are going to be pockets of people in any society who have prejudices against other people. So we can't just all of a sudden change the shape of the way we live life to accommodate every different point of view. We should accept we're civilised and that we live together.
I think you might have actually just completely recalibrated my brain here, because I was saying enough's enough, but you're absolutely right. There are people whose culture involves chucking, if you're gay, off the roof.
And those people will be pushing the West backwards, pushing Britain backwards.
Maybe it isn't such a bad thing to have the old rainbow-coloured bow around your neck.
But isn't it strange as well that the people in this country who protest at weekends, carry around flags and support Palestine and all that, are supporting regimes who follow that very way of life, that homosexuals will be punished in their country, but they're still walking around with flags saying, liberate us.
Well, not only that, I remember last year, a big Queers for Palestine. I mean, come on. Actually, there was a placard on one of the Palestine marches.
Should laugh, but should we talk about Rachel Reeves and the fact that she's going to... she's insisting that bureaucracy within businesses, legislation making life difficult for businesses. She describes it as the boot on the neck of businesses.
Don't you think it's a rather unfortunate expression?
I thought it was really unfortunate.
It's a bit like Black Lives Matter, if you remember.
It is. You can't use boots on the neck without evoking...
But this is her Mansion House speech, and it really echoes Margaret Thatcher's famous Mansion House speech, back in the early 80s, when she talked about the Big Bang in the city. I mean, what Rachel Reeves is saying, and who can disagree with the fact we have too much... as I think you mentioned the other day, our income tax book is 6,500 pages long.
But Stephen, the person who's disagreeing with it is Angela Rayner. So you've got one area of government, the Chancellor Jacken, right? No, I mean, listen. hang on. When Starmer got into Downing Street the first time, we will tread more lightly on your lives. Are you joking? You have trodden so heavily on our lives, you've decimated them, right? So now we've got Rachel Reeves, who was crying in the Commons only a week ago because she said, I'm under so much pressure. My economic policies are causing huge disruption, right? And then you've got Angela Rayner. The bill is going through the House of Lords now to stop companies working, new working practices, new taxes, new onerous restrictions. How can the Rachel Reeves say in the Mansion House speech that she's going to not...
Workplace security is actually an aid to productivity.
Not to the extent they want it.
Sorry, look at Sweden, look at Finland, look at Germany, look at the countries.
I don't want to look at them. I want to look at the United Kingdom.
No, fair play, but I want to see... We have a real problem with productivity in this country. We have low levels of productivity.
We do, very low.
Look at the countries that have high levels. Workplace security is an aid to productivity. And that's the point Angela Rayner's making. I have no problem with that.
People have enormous safety in work in this country, far too much in my view, already.
It's because you spent your life as a sort of rugged individualist, a self-employed journo, haven't you? Have you ever been on the payroll for anybody?
Of course I have.
Right, I'm going to call time on this, so you can continue the punch-off
That's to your credit, actually, Mike.
Stick with us. Thank you, Stephen and Mike. Plenty more to come on Britain's Newsroom. Back in just a tick.
Hello again, this is your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now for many of us it is going to be a drier, calmer and warmer day than it was yesterday. However, across parts of the southwest it's a cloudier, damper story. That's because there is a warm front trying to push its way in. It's not making a huge amount of progress, so it really is just going to be across the far southwest of England that we see that cloud and that rain, mainly across Cornwall into parts of Devon as well. Further north and east, yes, there will be a few showers across parts of the borders area, maybe some parts of eastern England, but for many it's dry and there will be some decent sunshine on offer. And in that sunshine, temperatures, like I say, a few degrees higher than they were yesterday. We're looking at highs of around 26, 27, possibly 28 Celsius. Then as we go into the evening, not a huge amount changes, so staying largely dry across much of Scotland. Still just one or two showers dotted around, perhaps a few more showers across southern parts of Scotland. A fine end to the day across Northern Ireland, but there is some wet weather waiting to push its way in. And then across much of England, well, a few showers here and there perhaps, but on the whole largely dry, away from that cloud and the damp weather across the far southwest. Like I said though, as we go overnight we are going to see some rain pushing its way across parts of Northern Ireland, also some heavy rain feeding into parts of Wales. There could be a bit of thunder mixed in with this. Further east though, across many central eastern parts staying dry with clear skies, but it's going to be another relatively warm night for most of us, especially in the west where we have that thicker cloud feeding its way in. Bit of a west-east split as we go through tomorrow, drier, brighter across eastern parts, more cloud towards the west, and there will be these outbreaks of rain. These are likely to be heavy and thundery at times, particularly across parts of Northern Ireland where we could see some torrential downpours, enough to cause a little bit of localised flooding and some travel disruption. Temperatures for many tomorrow are going to be even higher than today, highs of 28 or 29.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Very good morning to you. You're live with GB News. Ben and Bev back next. First, a look at the top stories this hour. Inflation has soared to its highest in nearly 18 months, with food and transport costs pushing prices up. Economists had expected a slower rise. The Bank of England is now under pressure to adjust interest rates in response to the unexpected surge. The The Defence Secretary says he can't say for sure if anyone was killed after a major data breach exposed thousands of Afghans who helped the UK's forces. The leak led to a secret £850 million relocation scheme, with thousands of Afghans now being moved to the UK. Meanwhile, the Co-op has confirmed every one of its 6.5 million members had their data stolen in a cyber attack. 4 people have since been arrested over that hack, including a 17-year-old boy. A major NHS review says physician associates should be renamed assistants and banned from diagnosing patients. The report comes after cases showed families mistakenly thought their loved ones were treated by doctors. Southern Water is the latest firm to announce a hosepipe ban as England battles exceptionally dry weather. The ban affects nearly 1 million people in Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. Violators could face a £1,000 fine. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you after Prime Minister's questions.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
11:35, Britain's Newsroom on GB News with me, Bev Turner, and Ben Leo.
Good morning. HMRC has come under fire from Parliament's spending watchdog for failing to track how many billionaires are paying tax in the UK and exactly how much they contribute to the economy.
In a blistering report, the Public Accounts Committee says the HMRC lacks a clear picture of what the super-rich pay, warning that the gap risks undermining public confidence in the tax system. Do you think?
Let's talk to economist and the co-founder of Regionally, an online investment environment, Justin Urquhart-Stewart. Justin, good morning.
Good morning.
Nothing seems to work in this country, does it? How do we not know how many billionaires are paying tax?
It's ridiculous, isn't it? You thought that's the one thing you would try and keep an eye on, just who is paying, who are the wealthy ones. And, of course, what I get fed up with this in our country is that, unlike America, where they celebrate people actually creating wealth and then paying tax for it, here it's a sort of form of jealousy. If you're that wealthy, why did you give it to me? And so why it's so important to actually track down your millionaires is because actually we know that the majority of actual tax payments is coming from the highest paid. So you need actually more millionaires, not less of them. Encourage more people in here to actually set up their businesses, live here, i.e. go against what the non-dom rules have been. Encourage more people to be here because they will pay more tax. As long as that's properly recorded, and unfortunately what you were just highlighting here, and Bev's quite right, we can't even record who are the wealthy people. We don't even know how many people live here, for heaven's sake.
So does that mean then that the assumption is you could be a billionaire living here, and because you have non-dom status or you've done very clever little tax fiddly things which aren't necessarily illegal but are just efficient, the government has no idea about your earnings? Is that what we're saying here, Justin?
In effect, yes. They'll probably know something, but because they'll have some idea of where you're contributing. It may not be income tax, but in certain terms of other areas of expenditure like VAT, or particularly for your businesses, where you'll find a lot of that money actually is going through. But do they actually know? They'll know who the non-doms are because you actually have to pay money to actually be part of that little group. It's a very small number indeed, and in fact, I'd like to see that increase much more because that's where you're going to get more money from. The key element that our dear Chancellor is having at the moment, this issue is not creating any confidence. You need confidence because confidence then means you're going to help you set up more businesses, and more businesses, if they're profitable, will be paying more tax, as will their employees. So this is the key point about actually having wealth creation, is go back to the basics of it in terms of the areas we're good at, which is things like technology, but also setting up new businesses. And you want those businesses to prosper. What you saw in the inflation figure today was the direct impact that we've had of the higher costs of employing people with the employment tax from the last budget coming through, and also with the minimum wage, which it's good to have a minimum wage, but to claim the government actually pays the minimum wage, no, they don't. It's business people who pay the minimum wage. The cost of business has gone up, and therefore they're going to be employing less people will setting up businesses. They don't have the confidence, and if they are making money, well, they don't trust what's happening because am I going to get hit with more taxes? I'll go somewhere else because I can. I don't want to. I'm going to support the country here and actually carry on making money for the country, but make it friendly for them so it's easier to be here and declare.
Justin, Andrew Bailey, the Governor of the Bank of England, gave an interview to The Times, I think it was on Sunday, suggesting rates may come down because there's slack in the economy. However, inflation's ticked up today, as it has in the US as well. What about rate cuts? Will this inflation rise dent chances of interest rates coming down? And in turn, of course, that manifests people's mortgages going down, so on and so on. Are we going to get a rate reduction?
I think we are. One of the things that's always made me laugh with this is that actually, if you've got inflation, you put interest rates up. Well, that's one of the ways you go about it, but actually not necessarily, because a lot of that inflation could be imported, nothing to do with our domestic economy. So actually what you want to have now is, again, back to that word of confidence, encouraging people to be investing, both domestically and externally, investors coming into the country, and therefore actually making sure that there is not just the proper structure to do so, but actually to make sure that they're paying tax liberally. So one of the elements of that will be cutting interest rates. They're still far too high in my view, and for a moment, for this particular time, even if you're just going to have it for a short period of time, to get that fire going of confidence, to get the economy moving. If you don't do that, then we're just going to be sitting here with the sails flapping and nothing happening.
OK, Justin, well, what was happening earlier, and I don't know where you are, but there's a lady came in behind you, it appeared, and took a photograph of you. So I don't know whether it was Rachel Rees trying to work out how to do a natural interview and not look like she's talking from a script. But who was that and what were they doing?
No, actually, well, I'm on a boat off Fair Isle, and that was actually my wife. And, of course, she's a journalist as well. And, well, she's a journalist, very professional one with her own column. And she does pop into the studio from time to time. Effectively, she's the one who tells me what to do.
Oh, that sounds like a happy marriage. Oh, well, thank you so much. Do give her our love, and thank you for joining us on your holiday, and have a lovely time.
Thank you.
Glad I asked.
Oh, I wish I could dial in from a boat. Yeah, I can present from a boat.
One day, Ben, we'll be on a boat cruising around the Caribbean.
Maybe we'd have a GB News travel show.
Occasionally dropping in to chat to our viewers and listeners. We'd miss you all at home, wouldn't we, if we spent our time on a boat. Talking of holidays...
Yeah, good segue. Here's the forecast for some top European destinations.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
There's the risk of some more heavy, thundery downpours affecting eastern parts of Europe as we go through the rest of this week. But across western areas towards the Canary Islands, Madeira, across much of Spain and Portugal, it's largely fine on Thursday. A decent amount of sunshine and feeling very warm or hot in that sunshine as well. Some showery rain likely across much of Italy, drier towards the south, but across parts of Greece, Turkey, there will be a fair few showers on offer. A drier theme for many through the end of the week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Juber, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel. At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Juber, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Right, it's Wednesday. That means we cross live to Westminster with Gloria Di Piero and Tom Harwood.
That's right. It's the last PMQs before the summer. There you are.
That's right. It's been a long time coming, but after today, MPs go off on their many holidays. I'm sure they'll be claiming they'll be working hard in their constituencies too. But yes, this is the final chance to see Keir Starmer go up against Kemi Badenoch, and there is so much to discuss, so much that might come up. It will be very interesting to see what the Leader of the Opposition goes on this week.
So the next time our viewers and listeners can submit questions will be the 3rd of September. So we really want to hear from you today. Send in those questions for our Tory guest, for our Labour MP, with your name and where you're from. You're really good at names, but less good at where you're from, and we'd like to know where you're all coming from, and send them in to gbnews.com/your say.
That's right. The show isn't just about analysing Prime Minister's questions, it's about putting your questions to our politicians. So that's how you do it.
Gloria, can I ask you a question? When you were an MP, did you do any work on your holidays?
I did. That's a very cheeky... No, you do have to keep a presence, but I did have some nice holidays too. It's a balance.
You still do. You still do. You're my inspiration for holidays.
I love a holiday. To be honest, it's like, because there are quite a lot of recesses, I did like to take the opportunity to see a bit of the world, and those habits are hard to break.
Gloria, just one more thing. Did you ever do a Dominic Raab and refuse to come home if something was kicking off?
No, but sadly I was in opposition the whole time, so I was never important enough in my 9.5 years
you are on our eyes,
as an
Gloria.
MP to ever have to come home.
You're a VIP in our eyes. We'll see you at midday.
Right, send your questions in gbnews.com/your say for Tom and Gloria.
OK, the nurse at the centre of a trans tribunal against NHS Fife, Dundee in Scotland, has been cleared of all gross misconduct allegations against her.
So this is Sandy Peggy. She was suspended after she complained about having to share a changing room with a transgender medic, Dr Beth Upton, at the Fife Hospital, where they both worked. Let's get the latest from Tony Maguire, who's been at court this morning. Tony.
Yeah, good morning. Well, I'm here in Dundee outside the Tribunal Court, where the second diet of hearings is now underway, a further 11 days of sessions, as Sandy Peggy, the nurse at the centre of that transgender row with NHS Fife, is taking the Health Board and Dr Upton to the tribunal and claims unlawful treatment under the Equality Act. Now, this stretches all the way back to 2023 in a series of altercations between Dr Beth Upton and Sandy Peggy, with Sandy Peggy objected to sharing a changing room with Dr Beth Upton. This ended up in claims of bullying against Sandy Peggy on Christmas Eve 2023, which resulted then in her suspension, and that is really now where we get to the meat of this tribunal. Well, last night, Sandy Peggy's lawyer said that all charges had been dropped against the NHS nurse, and that now are all claims following the completion of the Health Board's assessment. Now, her lawyer, our solicitor, made a statement outside the hearing today.
Yesterday evening, my client Sandy Peggy received confirmation from Fife Health Board, her employer, that following a disciplinary hearing, none of the gross misconduct allegations against her had been upheld. This follows a disciplinary hearing on the 25th of June, which considered 4 gross misconduct allegations, 2 relating to patient care failures, 1 of misgendering Dr Upton and 1 relating to her encounter with Dr Upton in the female-only workplace changing room on Christmas Eve 2023. Sandy is relieved and delighted that this 18-month-long internal process has concluded and cleared her of all allegations. Thank you. Sandy, what's your reaction?
Now, that last night of hearings concluded in February, and of course in between we've had that Supreme Court decision, and though these hearings started before that decision, it is expected to change the course of this second diet, of course, because now the rules around single-sex bases have changed. However, NHS Fife says that at the time they were complying with NHS policy.
OK, Tony, thanks very much for that. We'll keep tabs on you as the tribunal progresses. According to emails, Bev?
Right, a lot of you getting in touch this morning, talking about, we were just discussing with Mike and Stephen just before about whether we still need to have gay pride or the celebrations of who people want to have relationships with. And I've lost it now, here we go. And one of you has said the only time that you've seen anybody that's gay being abused is when you were in London and they were surrounded by a group of Asian males, and you said, I don't think there's any Stonewall in Pakistan. That is part of the balance, isn't it? That is apparently diversity is our strength, Ben.
Is there a Stonewall in Pakistan? Probably not. Right, still to come, Kemi Badenoch takes aim on Sir Keir Starmer at PMQs at midday. What would you be asking the Prime Minister if you were there? This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News. Here's your weather.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. This is your latest GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Now, for many, today is going to be drier than it was yesterday, but not everywhere. That's because there is a front across parts of the southwest. This is bringing more cloud here, even some outbreaks of rain, particularly across Devon and Cornwall, but some of that rain is likely to push into parts of Dorset, Somerset, maybe Wiltshire and the south of Wales as well. Elsewhere, and a few showers are quite likely across parts of southern Scotland, maybe northeastern England and down the eastern side. Otherwise, though, it's looking largely dry, decent amount of sunshine, and with that sunshine, temperatures rising. It's going to be a bit warmer than yesterday, highs of around 26, 27, possibly 28 Celsius. Then as we go through into this evening, still a few showers dotted around across some central southern parts of Scotland, but a fine end to the day across many northern parts and towards Aberdeenshire as well in the east. Also largely fine across Northern Ireland, a decent amount of sunshine here, and for many parts of northern England, central eastern England and North Wales, just 1 or 2 showers perhaps. But still in the southwest it is going to be quite cloudy and there's more rain to come. None of it especially heavy for the time being, but as we go overnight, more wet weather feeds its way into western areas, so across parts of Wales and across Northern Ireland, and it's here where we're likely to see some relatively intense rain, could even start to turn a bit thundery. Similar to last night, it's not going to be especially chilly. Temperatures for many holding up in double figures, some places only falling to around 17 or 18 Celsius, so pretty warm indeed. And then as we go through tomorrow, quite wet across some western parts. Like I said, it's across Northern Ireland where we're going to have the heaviest, most intense rain, potential for some high rainfall totals and some thundery downpours. Some of that wet weather pushing into parts of Scotland and down the western side of England and Wales as well. Staying drier though towards the east, and temperatures, if anything, a little bit higher than today.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters